Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Teapot. I'm really excited about tonight. I think we have a lot to talk about and a lot of really fun conversation ahead of us. If you have questions, please put them in the chat at any point, and we will try to answer your questions. I'm really excited. I've got Hammer joining me tonight. Those of you who know Hammer, we are excited to talk about some baseball. So I'm going to tee up and just show you some of the new things that we're doing in Market Movers, and then at some point we'll pivot over and I'll bring Hammer on, and we're just going to talk about baseball, and we're going to talk about Bowman and the craziness that is Bowman, as well as just kind of what's happening in the early season so far, and some price comparisons, and just a really fun night ahead of us. So welcome to Tim Davis, new Market Mover subscriber. So happy to have you, Tim, and Sports Awesomeness, who was in the chat early, and Aaron Rasmus here, Evening Hammer. Hammer will be on in a little bit. We've got Aaron, check out his channel. He does a lot of stuff with Market Movers and hockey, and another Tyler. So we've got another Tyler in the chat as well. So hello to all of you. So happy to have everybody on the live stream tonight. And if anybody's watching this after the fact, then thanks for taking the time. And we've already got one question. I might have to come back to it. Who is the best investment in basketball for around 100 and 150 bucks? I'm going to wait until I bring Hammer on, maybe until that one. And we'll talk about that, but I'll show you using Market Movers too, how you can kind of ballpark that. So let me just jump right in. And I have some really exciting new features from Market Movers that we rolled out this week, or that are like coming out this week. So I'm just going to jump over and share my screen right now and show you those. And let me actually bring this up. Okay. Share screen. And I think this should work. I'll keep my mug over here. Maybe let's try this. Yeah, that looks good. Hopefully that looks good for everybody else. If you can't see that or it's not big enough, let me know. I'll make it full screen. But here we go. So the first thing that we rolled out this week, very exciting, a new quick search feature. And when you're on the dashboard, you can click on it here, or anywhere within the tool, you can click on it here. So these two things actually do the same thing. And what it's going to do is it's going to pop open like a free search, kind of like if you were on eBay, you can just come in here and search. And this is something we've been working on for a little while. We've got some improvements coming to it. This is like a first glance rollout at it, but I'll just show you, like I can put in Luka Prism PSA 10. It's going to pull up all of Luka's cards that are in a PSA 10. If I want to drill down more, I can do Pink Ice. And now I've got the 2018 and the 2019, and very easy. Just literally click on the card, and it's going to take you to popular card charts for that specific card. So really easy, a lot easier than coming over directly to popular card charts. I think it's really intuitive for people who are just getting used to Market Movers as well. Just a really quick way, much faster, again, if you're just trying to get to a single card, than coming in here and setting all the kind of advanced filters. So you'll notice too, when you pop it up, it's got kind of some of the top trending cards in here, sort of like our SCI app. So you just get some quick options to come in here and look at if you wanted to pull up one of these cards as well. One of the enhancements we're going to make to this is that we are going to make it so that you can select multiple. So if you type in like a Luka card and then you want to select that card, you can start typing another one, select that. You can kind of stack them quickly that way too. And that's actually going to allow for some flexibility on this search that you might not otherwise have following the filtered prompts over here. An example is sometimes you can be more precise, I guess, using that method, and we'll get more into that in the future. But it's just a really exciting, quick way. Jeff's loving it. He's been hyping it up with us for the last 2 days since we rolled this out. So that's a really exciting new feature, and it's really nice on the mobile now. This makes our mobile kind of web version much easier to use. And speaking of mobile, one thing that I want to show everybody is, actually, I'll give you a little preview because we're going to talk Bowman tonight. But speaking of mobile, kind of world debut here. Maybe I can blow this up and present. Hopefully that's bigger. Oh, I got to switch my screen share. Bear with me 1 second. I was trying to be fancy and only share a particular window. So let's just share the entire screen. Cool. And this is the world debut preview of the Market Movers mobile app. This is still being designed. These are just sort of our wireframes, but we are intending to have a Market Movers app native mobile app rolled out in May. Jeff and a few others will be at the Dallas Card Show in May, and they're planning to have this ready for everybody to test and use and fully benefit from at the Dallas Card Show. So you just get a little preview here. Right when you log in, you'll have that quick search functionality. You can see right here, it's going to look similar to the web app now, and you'll be able to favorite players, select multiple cards, and then view the charts for those. And then if I go to the next slide, you kind of get a little preview of what we're thinking here for the popular card charts and how that's going to look. This is going to be a little bit lighter than the web version. So it's basically going to allow you to, I think we're, kind of toying with the limits, but if you're using the graph, probably like 3. So this isn't going to have the same level of detail. You don't want 1,000 different things going on the chart on a mobile, phone in a small view. But this will be really handy. Pull out your phone, quick type it in, and get all that same information. You'll have my collection functionality. We're looking at things like being able to take a picture with your phone of your card if you want to replace the stock photo, things along those lines. So this is going to be really, really awesome once it rolls out, and I can't wait to use it myself and to get everybody plugged in this. I know it's long overdue. It's always a balancing act between, working on what we first rolled out with the web application and then obviously getting a mobile app spun up too. So we know there's been a lot of people have been asking this for about a year now. So I am going to switch back my screen to market movers. And so the other thing that I want to show you, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do. This Saturday, there will be a video dropping with some improvements that we made to my collection. So last Saturday, if you caught it, I did a full tutorial video, like a 30-minute video on how to use my collection. This Saturday, I'll be a little bit shorter video with 2 new features, and I'll jump over there right now and show you what those are. So the first one is sync manual cards, and people have basically asked for a long time now, how do I make sure that if you add a card that I have as a manual card in my collection, that I can basically make it a popular card so that it tracks the price automatically. And what we've done is we've added this button that says sync manual cards. And all that you have to do when you're in your collection is click on this button, and it's going to look at all of your manual cards. And just like this one did here, it's going to find the match. So right now, if I filter here, I'll show you. I've got this Anthony Hardaway Hoops card as a manual card right now. When I click this button, it's going to sync it up and say, oh, it's this. You have this as a popular card now. And you click the little checkbox and hit OK. And now that card is converted over to a popular card. It's updated the net value. It's updated my collection totals. And I've got my stats box here, my pop count and everything. So you can check this whenever you want. You can check it 15 times a day if you want to. But this is really, I'll be honest, giving me incentive, even though I have some say over even what cards we're adding, to go in here and put more of my manual cards in. Just because now it's easier to keep track of them. Whereas before you would have had to sort of undo it and then add it as a popular card later. Related to this and using kind of the same logic, the same code base is this mass import from CSV. So this is funny. I think Tim Davis just asking the question, is it possible to bulk upload my cards? Yes, Tim, as of this week, it is possible. And so I'll click on this. Now, there might be bumps in this early. So, I mean, we've been testing it. We've been testing it. We're trying to make sure, if any of you have ever done testing, you try to break things, right? So that you can fix it and account for those things. But the video that I recorded yesterday will give you an exact step-by-step of how to do this and hopefully make it, foolproof. So that'll be linked in this video tutorial Saturday when that drops. What you need to do is just download this CSV template. And it's going to be the template. CSV is just a spreadsheet. Basically, it's a comma-separated spreadsheet, but it'll open just like a normal spreadsheet in Google Sheets or Excel or whatever you have. And you're just going to fill in the player name, the year, the set, the variation, the grade, the date you purchased it, if you have that, the price you paid. That's it, all in the rows. So you can move that over from a spreadsheet that you have into our template. And then you're going to save that file as a CSV. So there's an option to do that in Excel and in Google Sheets. And I cover that in the video again. If you already have a template, you can just click on this and then you can get started. And it's just going to pop you open like this. And you can import a file to get right into it. So Actually, I'm going to stop sharing for just 1 second, and I may have a file I can use. Let's see. Try one here. Can't remember if I saved a file earlier when I was testing this or not, so we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. And I might be able to give you a little bit of a preview of what the screen looks like. While that is possibly loading, I will jump over and look at the questions. So we got some more questions. Let's see. Yeah, somebody, 40 Breaks mentioned looking lightning fast too. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. So one of the big things that we're working on right now is performance. We are really literally all hands on deck on doing some code cleanup, some refactoring, and just making sure that we're improving the performance of every screen one by one. You notice the dashboard's a lot faster. You notice that certain screens are loading faster. We're going to make improvements so the charts are snappy and don't take as long. So that's obviously a big piece too. As we've added more users, as we've added more features, as we've added more cards, things have gotten bogged down collectively because of those three things. So we're definitely making some big steps to improve those. So it looks like I don't have a file available that I can use to show you that preview, but you'll see it this Saturday. Honestly, there's nothing stopping you from going in there and trying it now. My recommendation would be to wait until the tutorial video is out this Saturday. But you're really going to like that feature, whether you've been keeping a spreadsheet for a long time, or if it's just easier for you to quick pound some details into a spreadsheet and upload it that way, as opposed to doing cards one by one. So let me scroll down, and then I'm going to bring on Hammer here. The price movement alarm, is it only on the Pro version? Big Card asks. Yes, price alerts are only on the Pro version. That's one of our Pro features. Hercules Sports asks, how often are the eBay sales updated on Market Movers? We update the sales daily. There's a job that runs every night to pull in cards. Big Card asks, what's the max number of cards we can favorite? So that's a really interesting question. Technically, we don't have a limit in place right now. We're considering a limit only because of performance, not to actually try to restrict users. There are a few users who have several hundred players or cards favorited, but that can actually slow down your own experience within the tool just because it's running certain stats. So we're doing some testing with that. We don't really want to put a limit on it, but again, it's kind of finding a sweet spot. And if it was a limit, it would be somewhere in the hundreds kind of range, just to make sure that it's not going to negatively impact your own experience. So Aaron says, hey, Basement Sports Cards is here. And Tim, I answered your question. So let's see. Aaron Lapper30 asks, do the manual card searches remove and remember the non-relevant cards we remove from the results? I'm assuming if you mean when you go to chart any card, like to the results, and then you sort of manually exclude them. The best thing that I can suggest with that is including those words in the exclusions, So I can actually show you what that looks like real quick. Let me come over here. So if I go to add a manual card, you'll see this section down here, which is terms to exclude and terms to include. So you can put in here, test, choice, whatever, and include those. And it works just like Chart Any Card does with the terms to exclude. And then it'll save those so that if you have a manual card and you run your search, those words that you excluded are going to be part of that search so that it's really refined. If that doesn't answer your question, let me know. Dex is here. Dex says, I forgot I can put these questions up on the screen. I could care less about Market Movers. I'm a Teapot fanboy. Well, thank you, Dex. I see your comments on Discord, and I appreciate the support and love. Let's see. Basement says, what kind of mic and camera do you use? I have a Yeti blue mic and a Sony camera, although this is not my fancy camera. I'm just shooting off the webcam on my MacBook Pro here. But yeah, compliments of Jeff and Charles, our videographer, hooking me up and setting up the studio. So let's see. How often? Oh, Matthew just asked again, how often do the sales update daily? So that's all the questions for now. Let me bring on, ladies and gentlemen, Hammer. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hammer.
There he is. How we doing,
man?
I always appreciate TNT time. How are you tonight?
TNT, I know, nice shirt. We're rocking the baby blue.
You got that right.
What's good? How'd your Cardinals do today?
They did not do too well. They ended up losing 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. Like I was saying this morning in our stand-up, I think they used all of their runs last night in their 14-1 win against Strasburg. So luckily, it's just 3 out of 162. So the great thing is you wake up the next day and you play again. So
baseball is a long season. I'll tell you, I'm for those who don't know, I'm a Detroit sports fan. I'm a Tigers fan, and then I usually always end up kind of, I don't know, like picking a few other favorite teams, especially on these recent years when the Tigers aren't very good. And last year, even though I'm not a Dodgers fan, I was rooting for the Dodgers because I wanted Kershaw to win. I really wanted him to get one, so I was happy for him that they won. But I have a long time liked the Cards too, because Pujols is a pretty, I think probably my favorite baseball player ever, at least in my life, just very dominant. A couple of guys on my Tigers, we got Akil Baddoo, and
Yabba Dabba Doo,
and Wilson Ramos are tearing it up. So we've got some guys doing some good things, and Matthew Boyd, who I'm a big fan of, is really off to a good start.
Casey Mize too. He's had a couple good starts as well. So I know he was a guy in, I believe, 20. You can get him in 2020 Bowman products. So I know that's a guy who I've been looking forward to see get to the big league level, and had a nice 7 innings, 4-hit shutout his last start.
Yeah, the next one up has got to be Torkelson, and we'll talk a little Torkelson here. Talk Torkelson in our Bowman chat here. But what else are you seeing in baseball? What else has gotten you excited so far? You got a fantasy team, or you just? I know you're all in, and you got the MLB package and everything. So.
Yeah, it's been an interesting 2 weeks from a card standpoint and from a player standpoint. Obviously the Tatis injury was kind of came out of right field and wasn't necessarily expected. So that was mainly on the headlines in the first week. But it's great seeing Nolan Arenado continue to do well in the St. Louis Cardinals. I know a lot of folks thought that maybe he wouldn't have as good as offensive statistics going out of Coors. So it's nice to see that he's playing well. And to your point, Baddoo, you have guys like him. You have guys like JD Martinez, who kind of had a rough year last year, but, has known to be a great player in this league. So there's really been tons of new guys coming on the scene, some old guys. Even Evan Longoria has shown a bit of a resurgence with the Giants. So it's been interesting to see some of those things. And it's also interesting to see DeGrom is still unable to get runs from the Mets when he starts. So I'm hoping at some point he can finally get some run support,
Yeah, isn't that weird how that works out? I remember back in the day too, like Roger Clemens, had this like season with the Yankees where he, was, I don't know, he had like a 1.98 ERA for the season, and he only got like 9 wins or something because he couldn't get the run support. So sometimes too, even for teams that generally have offensive output, it's almost like they get in their own heads and think, oh, well, our Cy Young is out here, so we don't need to put up any runs tonight. I don't know. It seems to work out too often like that.
I totally agree. And I'll be interesting to see how many wins he has at the end of his career. Because if he ends up making the Hall of Fame and getting into Cooperstown, he could have the least amount of wins to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame, which just piggybacks off the fact that the Mets, for some reason, decide, our ace is on the mound, so we can kind of take the day off.
Yeah, it's weird. Their hitting is super streaky, definitely super streaky. I'm hoping Pete Alonso can get it going this year. Shout out to Jeff for his Gators, but I'm a big Alonso fan. I like him. I have a bunch of Alonsos in a box. And speaking of JD Martinez, I was going to pull the box out. I won't run off screen and grab it after all, but I did pick up one of his 2011 Cognac Diamond BGS 9s. It was $50, best offer on eBay. And I'm like, the floor on this card can't be much lower than this for a guy like him. Even if he has another bomb season, I mean, that's sort of because of Trout kind of become like an iconic set almost in its own right. And then, the diamonds and the cognacs are super, I think, kind of desirable. So I wasn't, a BGS 9 isn't the sexiest grade, but I was still like, this thing has a lot of potential to go up. This could be a $150, $200 card by the end of the season if Martinez comes back and hits like he has in years past. And so far, he's off to a very hot start. So that's what I'm holding. I'm high on Martinez this season to bounce back, not just to have this be a fluke early. So I'll probably be holding that one through the end of the season and see how things are shaping up for him. The Red Sox I think they've won 8 straight or something. They're on fire. So
yeah, I know that they're first in the NL East right now, and I actually had JD Martinez as my hold in our buy and sell article this week. And one comparison I had to him was Freddie Freeman. Prior to his MVP season last year, he was kind of in that same area, and last year in the shortened season, he was able to get that MVP award, which helped propel his card prices. So I do think that if Martinez can keep it up, which he's shown in 2018, being a part of that World Series team, and 2019, I don't think there's any reason why he can't put up an MVP type season moving forward and potentially get to the point where his cards are at Freddie Freeman's or even more than that. They're if you look at their accolades, they're relatively similar, except the fact that Freddie Freeman has that MVP. So it's interesting because it's really hard to gauge looking into the last year's season. A lot of people just kind of push some individuals aside based off of maybe a guy hitting 215 last year or something off of a really small sample size. So I find it interesting in that aspect from the baseball card market because there's a lot of holes and there's a lot of opportunities that you can find just based off of guys to be pushing away certain individuals or players that had an off COVID season.
Yeah, I mean, check this guy. I mean, 3 Silver Sluggers. He obviously won the World Series, but if you go back and you look at some of his numbers, he was an MVP 4 back in 2018, 43 homers, 130 RBIs. He hit 330. I mean, he slugged, or his OPS was over 1, and he's MVP 4. And that gives you an indication of how crazy some of these batting numbers have gotten for guys. It's pretty remarkable. But those are, 111 runs. That's a serious season. And obviously, he can keep, even the next season. He followed that up with 304, 36 homers. He's the heart of that lineup, and I'm pretty bullish on him.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And it's interesting because from a perception standpoint, when you go back to that World Series 2018 season, you go into 2019, he was sort of looked at as the top hitter on that team. People were sort of putting Mookie Betts to the side at that point just because JD was putting up those sort of numbers. And at the time, Red Sox paid a lot of money to get him. So it's just interesting because perception has a lot to do with this market. And it's interesting to see over time now that Mookie's with LA and he's helped contribute to their World Series last year. The perception of Mookie has totally changed as well. So I don't think there's any reason why he can't sort of get back on that path as wow. He is, JD's one of the best hitters in the game.
Yeah. So there was a question related to the Red Sox too on, let me find it here. Dex asked on Devers. Actually, one of our team members we were chatting a little bit about Devers in our Slack too. But I'm like sour on Devers because I did invest into Devers last year. And I mentioned it if anybody watched the baseball episode that I did on this channel a few weeks back. A strategy I like to do is to diversify my portfolio going into the long baseball season. And Devers is a guy whose cards I'm still holding on to because he just was terrible last year. And so everybody on the Red Sox was terrible last year. So maybe I'm already holding Devers. I'm also frustrated because I'm waiting on a redemption from Panini for Devers. Granted, not a licensed one, but a pretty sweet one. And it's been like 18 months and they haven't fulfilled it. So when I hear Devers, I just get cranky. What about you, Hammer, on Rafi Devers?
He's somebody that I necessarily didn't put any money into yet because to me he was more of a wait and see sort of play. And I also noticed that he had a bit of a down 2020, along with JD Martinez and the Red Sox as a whole. So to be honest with you, I do see some opportunity. I know as of right now, he is he's on fire. I think he has maybe 9 home runs in 9 games or something of that nature. And I believe he almost had another one today, but it got robbed. So I definitely think he's somebody to keep an eye on. And I think he is a potential play this year. Now, if you are somebody that is a Red Sox fan or think that the Red Sox can get into the playoffs, I think Rafael Devers is worth the investment, just based off his age and based off of how much potential he has left. And he's starting to show some of that potential now coming into this season. So he's somebody that I've actually been eyeing up myself and kind of, methodically figuring out what might be the best card for me to dabble in, as he starts to kind of come into his own. but I know he's a guy who's bounced around in terms of hobby talk over the past 2 years. So I do think he is somebody that could potentially be not a late bloomer, but somebody that can finally get, to where he was, his potential was supposed to be at a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was that big exodus of players from the Red Sox, and people kind of looked at Devers as the next guy up, even when he was young. And obviously, back in 2019, he showed flashes. He had a really solid year, and he hit 32 home runs, and he had a really 115 RBIs, 129 runs, MVP 12, and then last year he just. I mean, this is actually better than I remember him being last year. Honestly, if you had asked me what was his average in 2020, I honestly thought he was down around 220. I just remember him not being good, and I had him on my fantasy team for a little bit, and he wasn't good. So, yeah, his average could use a little help so far, but he's hitting the power, hitting the dingers. So, be interesting to see how it plays out for him. There was a question earlier, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I think the question was around. Let me scroll up and see if I can find it. It was like best here. Nate Doe, who's the best investment in basketball for around $150. I'm just going to show you an easy way to do that. So I went to price movements by card, and I'll put in basketball, and I'll do $100 to $150.
There's got to be Alonzo Ball in there in between that price range, right?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, there's plenty of options, and this is the nice thing. And actually, this kind of brings up a good example. One of the things I'm thinking about doing for kind of a recurring video series on this channel is like an opportunity cost video analysis to say, what can you get for certain dollar amounts, and how do you want to think about that? Everybody kind of fixates on current stuff, but we've seen over the last year and a half, 2 years, this ebb and flow between modern and vintage, modern and junk wax. And, so when I pull something up like this, you can kind of go least to greatest, or depending how you want to look at it. Actually, it's basing it on average sale. So I'll just do that. It's basing it on the average sale over the last week. So, it's interesting. Wow, is this real? I guess it's because it's like the iconic photo. $100 average sale for the base LeBron card. I suppose that's what happens when it's the Kobe tribute dunk mixed with these boxes being $2,500. But I wouldn't be looking at a card like that and saying that's the $100 I want to spend personally. That's definitely a collector card. There's going to be a lot of those, so that's not one I would look at. But I don't know. I would just scroll down through here and just kind of look at these and see, what players are catching my eye. What era do I want to invest in? Am I trying to take a gamble with and time the market with the playoffs coming up? I'm really bullish on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Maybe you're high on a product, so you want to come in here and you want to say, you know what, I think Select is on the rise, so I'm just gonna check out what's in here for Select, and there's only a couple of cards. So you could take a crack at one of these. You got the original Dame Lillard rookie. Maybe that's not a bad buy. He's been in the MVP conversation. So that's just how I would approach this. I could certainly get into this and give it some more thought, but in terms of just looking for particular deals. Now, the other thing you can do is you can use the eBay deal search, and this is a newer feature that we have, and you can do the same thing in here and put in $100 to $150, set your price threshold. We kind of cap it at 25% below the last sale, just to make sure it should be the right card. But if you come in here and you did basketball and you hit search, this is on graded cards only, but you could kind of try to find cards that are below last comp, and that's not a bad way to approach it either. So definitely a few options there. Let's talk baseball, though. Let's keep talking baseball, Hammer. There's been some requests for talking about Ohtani, and Wisconsin Collectibles says, regarding baseball, there's been a big push recently on Topps Chrome surpassing Topps Paper. I'm not a baseball collector per se, but what's more desired, and has that changed? So this is really interesting, and baseball is not my expertise. Let me come back over here to us. Baseball is not my highest. Well, how do I want to phrase that? I'm not a baseball card expert. I wouldn't say I'm a baseball card expert. It's a sport I've been spending a lot of time over the last few years getting familiar with, And so I was noticing, early on, a couple of years ago, that the Topps cards were selling for more than the Chrome. And that was baffling to me because Chrome basketball sells for significantly more than Topps paper. So I think it's just been like, maybe it's new people or maybe it's people shifting. I mean, certainly, I don't know what the rationale was for. I don't know if you do, Hammer, about like why Topps paper tended to be more. I think the print runs were actually higher on Topps paper. Maybe it's because it was the first set to come out. So do you have any insight into that?
And he has a great point. Most of my life and where I grew up, Topps was, the paper was the flagship rookie, and that's the one that you usually went for. Topps Chrome was usually just, the secondary one, or individuals at the time that were into the Chrome cards. That's what they would go into. And this is something that I've been studying since last year, and I've mentioned it a couple times. I would say early 2020, you notice that Fernando Tatis's Topps paper was going for more than his Topps Chrome. And as of recently, that's changed. And to your point, I do think some of it is new collectors coming in and just thinking that the Chrome would be the more desired one compared to the paper. I also think something that might have to do with it is maybe pop counts and things of that. I can imagine that the paper are harder to grade than the Chrome for the most part. So individuals that have been sending in a lot of these baseball cards for grading have probably realized that, wow, I can probably get gems for I can get PSA 10s or BGS 95s or BGS 10s consistently with the Chrome compared to the paper, which is a little bit harder. So, but to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is the fact that there's new folks coming in, or folks that have collected within the hobby, but not necessarily baseball, and they're using some of the same strategies that they've used in basketball or football cards necessarily, like you were discussing, where Chrome's been mostly dominant in those other sports. So that's probably the logic that they're following when maybe they're coming into Topps Chrome to get that Ronald Acuna or that Ohtani or that Fernando Tatis.
Yeah, so check this out. I'm going to show you something. I think it's a good call out on the pop count thing. I did hear somebody say that like a year ago that, Chrome tends to be easier to got a higher gem rate. But let me jump back over and show. So this is the last year for Fernando Tatis. And you can see that a year ago, his paper was higher than his Chrome. And look what's happened since, over the last 4 or 5 months, the separation that's occurred, so that most recently, he's at over $100, $120, basically, 50% more, for the Chrome than for the paper. So that's another one that's proving to be another one of those regret type things for me, because I prefer the Chrome. I think the Chromes look nicer on the newer stuff, and it's just interesting to see how the market kind of splits apart now. But the pop count is half on the Chrome what it is on the paper. So be interesting to track that too. I want to highlight here real quick, Parker. I want to thank Parker. He put together kind of a summary list, and I did this last time too. I think this is really cool, of the cards that we've added over the last month in Market Movers. And so I'm just going to kind of go through these and just give an overview of the type of stuff that we've been adding. So 2018, 2019 Prism basketball rookie inserts like Emergent, Instant Impact, etc. Even more iconic Kobe cards like the 2000 Ultra where he's hugging Shaq. Lots of Bowman Chrome prospect cards from the past decade. We're going to get into that in a second. Lots of hockey Young Guns and Young Gun canvas cards. I know you've been working on those, Hammer. 2019 Topps Chrome Champions League Sapphire key players. So that's soccer. 2020 Prism basketball. 2020 Select football. Lots of 2017 and 18 Select football rookies. Early season baseball breakouts like Yermin Mercedes, Byron Buxton, Akil Baddoo, etc. More sets of 2012 basketball rookies like more Hoops, Brilliance, etc. More 2017-18 Prism football rookie inserts, again, like the Instant Impact and the rookie introductions. All of Lionel Messi's different 2004 Mega Cracks variations, Erling Haaland cards, more young American soccer cards like Tyler Adams and Josh Sargent, cards of popular UFC fighters who are hot right now, Francis Ngannou, Sean O'Malley, John Jones, all of Tom Brady's Prism Silvers. So that's a really cool thing, I think, is that we're seeing, on those high profile players. And I've mentioned this, one thing I'm kind of keeping an eye on is like Tom Brady's Prism Silvers have gone up. Patrick Mahomes' Prism Silvers are high for every year, even though there's a limited sample size. For the last 3 years, though, they're high. Other guys I'm watching, though, like Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, some of these other, I'm curious about what's going to happen to Phillip Rivers' prices over time. And obviously it's kind of a coin flip whether or not he gets into the Hall. But just some other guys to watch there. Courtside silvers of more NBA superstars like Steph, KD, Giannis. Iconic 1950s baseball: Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, Sandy Koufax. 1993 finest basketball cards. That was the first year of Topps Finest. So we had some base and refractors there. 2021 Topps Series 1 baseball. 2018-19 Topps Chrome Sapphire baseball. A wide variety of 2020 Hoop Slam parallels. We got 2020 Revolution and Donruss basketball and Prism draft pick Downtowns. 2016 Donruss Optic preview. So that's a super short printed. One of our members kind of suggested, hey, you might want to get these in here. They're very rare. I actually didn't even know those existed, but there were previews in Donruss of Optic, and they look like the Optic cards, but they're really short printed and they sell for pretty high dollars. And then we've got 1996 EX2000 cards of MJ, Iverson, and Kobe. Even more Nikola Jokic parallels and sets. He's looking like he's got a good shot at the MVP. And then some cool oddball stuff. 2005 Topps Chrome Jay-Z card. The 1987, I don't even know how you say this guy's name. I added this card today. Ayrton Senna. He was the big Brazilian Formula One racer who died in an accident in Italy at a young age. I think he was in his 30s. He was like the superstar. And then I added this Steffi Graf. There's a few more cards in this 1987 A Question of Sport set. They've got some kind of fun cards in there that we've already had the Tyson in there. And the boxing rookie cards of Canelo Alvarez and Oscar De La Hoya. So nice little recap there. Lots of hard work. I think we're probably around like 4,000 cards added in the last month. That's going to get even faster because we've got some fun things on the back end that we know about that we've been working on. So everybody should, we hear it. More cards, and we are going to keep that going faster and faster. So let's see here. Let's just talk about Bowman, shall we, Hammer?
Let's do it.
Market movers, or I'll just pin it here. And I'm going to bring this up, and I want to present. And this is going to be fun. So Bowman has been the bane of our existence in a way. And so I put this together. Not Big Baller brand, Jeff, not Big Baller brand. This is the Baffling Bowman brand, and trickier to figure out than R.A. Dickey's Knuckleball for any true baseball fans. But Bowman it's obviously owned by Topps. It's part of Topps, but it's a separate product line. And what you have in Bowman is you have Bowman Draft. You have Bowman Draft First Edition as of last year. You have Bowman Draft Sapphire. Then you have Bowman Chrome, Bowman First Edition, Bowman Sapphire, Bowman Heritage. I might even be forgetting one or two. This I was just putting this together tonight before we got into this. So that's the list of products. So when we jump into this, let me click over here. Let's start with Bowman Draft. So for those who don't know, you have a first Bowman card, which is really, it's in a way, it's almost like in baseball, a player's true rookie card, almost in the way they had it back in the day when they only had like one rookie card. They had like a Topps or a Fleer rookie card or something, right? So you have the base first Bowman, and when it's their first Bowman, you'll see it somewhere on the card, like in this one for this Cade Cavalli. And then you have the base cards, which aren't the first Bowman, for the Keone Cavaco. These are from the same set. So what you have is you have first Bowman within the same checklist of the base cards as players that are non-first Bowman. And so this one's BD24, this one's BD22. And then in Bowman Draft, I should say, you have chrome inserts with a full refractor parallel list. So in this case, this is Cavalli's chrome version of his Bowman First, and it still says Bowman First. Okay, so that's Bowman Draft. Then you get into the chrome and chrome variations, and they have image variations like they do in other sports and Topps. So the base chrome is considered the first Bowman, but the image variation, which is short printed to super short printed, is not a Bowman first. So this is a Bowman first. This is not a Bowman first. And then they have corresponding autographs to each of these. So they have the first Bowman autograph and then the image variation autograph, which is numbered to 99. And then they have the same exact photo, also numbered to 99, but it's an insert auto called Draft Night. And I think there's actually like 2 or 3 other auto insert sets in this checklist. I just put this here, for example. So I'm just going to stop right there. Even if we were just doing this, Hammer, what's your reaction to this? And I'm curious about other people's thoughts in the chat too, if you have thoughts on Bowman overall. But what do you think about this, Hammer?
What it makes me think is a bunch of Major League Baseball prospects went in Topps and said, we need you guys to make Bowman for us prospect, or scouts per se. Scouts that go after prospects for respective teams, because some of the logic behind it is a bit confusing. And like you were saying with Bowman draft, and similar to Bowman baseball, so anybody who maybe got 2020 Bowman baseball this past year with Jason Dominguez and Witt Jr., you would notice that you could pull a paper rookie of theirs, but within each pack there was 2 chromes. So there's just there becomes a lot of confusion when you have 2 or 3 different chrome cards of a particular guy and 2 or 3 different Bowman sets, where one of them might have a first on it. So one thing I've learned is you really have to study the checklist if you're looking to potentially invest, whether that be buying sealed wax, which I think is a great play for some of this Bowman stuff, since since some of these guys take a little while until they blossom. But even in terms of if you're looking for a guy on the Cardinals, Daniel Carlson's rookie from Bowman, you're going to go to 2016 Bowman and be like, oh, he's in the same set as Fernando Tatis, when in reality he's not. He's in Bowman draft, Dylan Carlson. Same with, I believe, Bo Bichette. You can find theirs in Bowman draft. You can find Fernando Tatis's in Bowman baseball. So that's just an example of really having to dive in and make sure you know what you're looking at and understanding before maybe you put that money down and realizing this isn't even his first. This is the prospect card from the second Bowman that was released that year.
Now, and the other thing is, I didn't put the card backs on here, but you can't tell on the back of the cards what product they came out of. Like they just have like the fine print about Topps and stuff on the bottom. There's no discernible indication on these cards what product they came from. So this is just these ones. I'm gonna actually pop this back open and go to the next one. I'll keep going through this. So last year they also released a product called Bowman Draft First Edition, and they also have Bowman Draft Sapphire. Bowman Draft First Edition is a first Bowman with a first edition logo on it. Now you can imagine when we're adding these cards, how having a card that's first becomes problematic when you're trying to write queries for eBay to go get data accurately. And you can also imagine that if this is so confusing and convoluted, how many eBay listing titles are not accurate. They're not the right description. And I've got some examples in here of that. And then the other thing is, if you look at how BGS and PSA slab these, they slab them differently in terms of their labels. And I didn't have time to put it on here, but like PSA will actually put 2020 Bowman as the set, and then they'll have Spencer Torkelson as the player name, and then as the variation they'll put Sapphire. But that's technically not correct. Their slab should say 2020 Bowman Draft Sapphire is what it should say, and no variation. It should just be blank on the variation row, because this is a totally separate product. You can't get this card out of 2020 Bowman Draft. You have to buy 2020 Bowman Draft Sapphire. So it gets like, I think they did it to kind of economize space, or maybe because somebody did it wrong the first time around with some of these, but they do the same thing on the chromes. So they'll put 2020 Bowman Draft, like on the header line, and then chrome down below. But then on the Bowman chrome product, they do the same thing. So you get a lot of discrepancy. It's not even easy to discern it from the graded slab companies and how they lay it out. So let's see here. Baldy actually brought up, we got, somebody said my head exploded. That's about to explode more. The Megabox version with the same pick doesn't say first. So the Megabox, like refractory, X-Fractor type card or Mojo type look, doesn't have first on it. So now if we keep going, this is great. In the Bowman first edition, so what you have is you have a sky blue card in the first edition and in the regular Bowman. And I forgot to change the title up here, but this is still first edition. We're talking about a Bowman. So Bowman paper had a sky blue, and they were serial numbered to 499. This listing is wrong. This is not a first edition card. It's just a sky blue to 499 as part of Bowman Draft. And then Bowman Draft first edition has a sky blue with the first, which is not numbered at all. So they do the same parallel, but one's numbered, one's not. One's the first, one's not. And it's the same player in the same photo. So how is somebody supposed to know which one should be more valuable? Is it the first edition, or is it the one that's serial numbered? You don't have any idea how many of these were printed because it's not serial numbered. And then this is where it gets so awesome. And by awesome, I don't really mean awesome. Bowman and Bowman Chrome. These are not Bowman Draft. These are Bowman and Bowman Chrome. And you have the Bowman Draft version here that I had on that first slide. It's BD22, right? Not his first card, not a first edition, just a Bowman Draft paper. Then you have a Bowman paper. And when you look at these cards, you have no idea which product they came out of. You can't tell. Like there's not on the back of the card either. There's no distinction between them to say which product these came out of. Then you have a Chrome version in Bowman paper, but then you have a Bowman Chrome card. And then you have a Bowman first edition, which also has a Chrome. So these things get impossible. Now, thankfully, the card numbers differ, right? Most of the time, the card numbers differ.
Most of the time.
But I had a photo, and I couldn't find it. I was trying to get it into this deck beforehand. But I had a photo of Shohei Ohtani's two like Bowman Chrome autos, and they're the same exact card number from two different products. And the only difference is one is him batting and one is him pitching, but it's from two totally different products. And the slabs are even identical, like for PSA. So you have no idea. There's no way to differentiate them when you're like trying to query eBay's data to set it up and differentiate it. So yeah, I just like curious about people's thoughts on this. And Aaron says baseball's just doing this to keep me away. And it does. Like people need to be able to make sense of this, right? It seems like an overcomplication to me. It's like just, I don't want to say like print more of it, but like that's crazy. In the very least, you would think there'd be some way to tell on the cards which product it came out of, right? Like this shouldn't say Bowman Chrome. Maybe it should just say Bowman, but it's a Chrome finished card, like something like that.
It's really fascinating. And even outside of necessarily the first, if you even look at some of the rookies, and I think they might have cleaned up some of this in some of the newer Bowman releases. But if you look at Mike Trout's, if you want to look at any of his Bowman Chrome rookies, you can find a Bowman Chrome at a Bowman Draft 2011. He has a paper rookie, but he also has a Chrome rookie. Now, that's number, I believe, 101. But if you go into 2011 Bowman Chrome set, he also has a Chrome rookie, which obviously makes sense because it's a Bowman Chrome set. Yep. And that number is 175.
Yeah.
It's very easy for people to get that mixed up and to not really know, if it's a Chrome, if it's a paper, if it's from Bowman Draft, if it's from Bowman Chrome, they're both Chrome, so it's interesting to see, even that was, nearly 10 years ago, just some of the logic behind, them adding, those multiple rookies and things of that nature. So it's definitely something that requires, I think, more research than some of these other sports that I've been accustomed to collecting to really, you really have to research and circle the checklist, circle the players that you want before you go out and make that purchase. And for individuals, maybe you just started getting in, what I like to use is, like I said, 2020 Bowman. If you went after Dominguez, if you went after Witt, that's a good baseline just for you to kind of understand sort of the format on how they're doing things. Now, if you were somebody that got that Bowman baseball and were looking for that Dominguez first, and then you got Bowman Chrome because that came out, you quickly realize that his Bowman Chrome is just a prospect card. It's not his first.
Yeah. But it's so hard because it's not intuitive. There's no, and I put this question, how can you tell on the checklist if it's a first? You can't. And Baldy said that you can't tell. So when you pull up the cardboard connection checklist, like the BD 22 versus 24 for Cavalli versus Cavaco, neither one of them says first on the checklist. So you literally need to be able to see the card to know that it's the first. So you have to sort of like, and then the other question was kind of like, how do you know which ones, how would you know which product it came out of? Well, then you have to know the checklist. And that's just it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of different cards. How does somebody know which one of these cards should be worth the most money? You know, and what I've seen when I look at baseball card prices is that it's not consistent at all. Like for this player, this card might be the most expensive, and another player it's not, and it's like drastically different. And that's where the ratio nerd in me gets, you know, kind of starts twitching and wondering, like, is there's like an education gap in the market, you know, from almost like on the part of Topps and their Bowman representatives to like say, here's our thought process behind this. Here's how you should be looking at it. Here's the more rare ones. Here's, you know, and then again, for each of these, there's somewhere between 5 and 12 different parallels for each of these. And sometimes the parallel colors don't sync up between products. So an orange one here might be numbered to 20, but over here it's numbered to 100. And it's just really, it's like taxing on the brain of the collector and investor to wonder like what they should be going after. So I want to show this one too as an example. Nolan Arenado, 2013 Bowman Chrome, and his 2013 Bowman Chrome. But then, like I said, they put draft picks and prospects rookies down here. And this is a rookie card that's in Bowman draft.
Correct.
So back in these earlier years, they actually had rookie cards in Bowman draft. Normally, those are only in Bowman that you see a rookie card. And then that's sort of competing with a Topps rookie card, right? But in this case, you had Bowman draft with a rookie card of Arenado hitting. And the only difference here is like the card numbers and the product that they came out of. But again, if you're looking at the front of this card and if you're looking at the back of the card, there is no way to tell what product it came out of. You don't know. You can't. And if you go to list a raw version of this on eBay, you know, you might not know and you might not list it correctly. This makes it very difficult to pull in accurate data, especially if these two cards for some reason don't sell for the same amount roughly. I think these two sell for very similar amounts. So
yeah, and
that's
another level to that is that for the Bowman draft, there's a paper rookie of Nolan Arenado. Just like I was saying with 2011, there's a paper Mike Trout. So that's when you even get into, you know, and in terms of this, building the queries and things like that, the set's Bowman draft, but it's technically a Chrome card. So I can see their logic behind why they maybe want to throw that Chrome in front of draft or just have Bowman Chrome and stick it on the bottom. But it definitely just, you know, causes some confusion with some of these, you know, maybe some of these Bowman sets that were prior to 2017, which maybe we can dabble into and look at some, you know, some of the relations when it comes to Topps Chrome, or at least just Topps Chrome and Bowman Chrome. Because like we said, there's such a learning curve per se with some of this stuff that there are some holes and things of that nature that you could potentially find to kind of scratch your head and wonder why, you know, one player's cards are going for a certain price, but why another's, you know, the correlation isn't the same.
Yeah. And so Baldy's Break says the other thing to check when looking at these prospects, how many of these, how many out of each set are still relevant or remain relevant after several years? Not a lot. There's just a lot of factors here that pile up to push me away from Bowman. Now, Topps, even Topps can be somewhat confusing between Series 1, Series 2, Update, Heritage, Chrome, Sapphire. Like there's still a lot of parallels to Bowman, but it tends to be more straightforward. The biggest point of confusion that people can run into is you get like the rookie card out of Series 1 or Series 2 or something, and then the rookie debut, which has the rookie card logo on it in Update. Or you might get the Update rookie card, and then next year it has a rookie debut in Series 1, and that can be a little bit confusing. But I don't know what I'm supposed to make of it, and that's where I'm going to pull up your stuff here, and I'll see if I can let me see if I can dump your images in here into my deck just to make them bigger.
But yeah, I mean, even, there's been some confusion with Topps Chrome and Topps Chrome Update and things like that. And even with some of the early years, I know there was something I mentioned to you where Nolan Arenado's Topps Chrome, his first rookie, is going for less than his Topps Chrome Update. And if you actually look into the sets, the Topps Chrome was actually the first set that was released. So some individuals might think, well, since that one was the first one that was printed, that to me is his true Topps Chrome rookie card. But if you look, he was put in Topps Chrome Update, but you could only pull those Topps Chrome Updates from 2013. I believe it was 1 or 2 packs out of a mega box out of Topps Update. So with that being said, there was much less printed of that Topps Update for Nolan Arenado. So with that being said, the Topps Update is actually going for more right now than his Topps Chrome in PSA 10. So essentially how you want to look at it. Do you want the one that was less printed, or do you want the one that was printed first? So it's really interesting when you can actually dive in and start to kind of line up some of these things and line up the dots together to see maybe why something is going for more when maybe it shouldn't be.
Yeah, man. All that is definitely true. So I pulled up your charts here, and you had asked the question, so which card is more expensive, the Bowman or the Topps, right? How do you know which one's more expensive? And I put Wisconsin Collectibles says he's going to have to go watch Inception to straighten out his brain. Yeah. Follow that up with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or something. So in this case, Acuna's Bowman is more than his Bowman Chrome prospect first Bowman card is more, and significantly more, really, like 50% more than his Topps Chrome, right? So that's Acuna. But then if we come over to Tatis, you've got again his prospect. This is his prospect Chrome. So maybe it would have been better to compare this. Now this is a much lower population, right? Which is probably why, like, this one might have been better to compare to his Topps Chrome, but still the population on that Topps Chrome was 6,000, and this one's 900. But you see, like, there's a lower print run, lower pop count. Makes sense that this is higher, but 4 times higher, I don't know. But then you jump over to Francisco Lindor, very similar pop counts, very similar, and his 2011 Bowman Draft Prospect card, $200, and his 2015 Topps Chrome over 600. Like that's crazy. And then you pointed this out again with Yelich. The Topps is more than the Bowman. So I don't know. How do you know? How do you know what to do? How do you know which one should be more? Is it pop count driven? I don't know, not really. These are both really low pop. Yes, this one's half of that, but these are both pretty low, relatively speaking. So I don't know. Anybody has any tips in the chat on discerning this? But we're going to keep doing our research and becoming experts in this space and trying to educate on this. But it's this is why I call it the triple B, what I call it, the baffling Bowman brand, because it's really difficult to stay on top of.
Definitely. I definitely challenge a lot of the members to do some of that research in market movers, because I do think there is some holes there. Like we just pointed out with like Francisco Lindor and guys of that nature. It seems like to me, from what the research I've done, is with some of the new people coming in the hobby, they're willing to overpay right now for maybe some of the newer sets and some of those newer guys like Acuna, like Tatis, but they're kind of neglecting those guys like Lindor, Yelich, Arenado, and those guys maybe from that 2011 to sort of 2015 range, where their Bowman firsts are being ignored, when in reality, as we saw with their pop reports, they're really, really low. So if you're somebody that's looking to dive into baseball and not sure if you want the Topps rookie or you want their Bowman first, dive into market movers and maybe see where you can find some opportunity, because I think you'd be surprised just compared to maybe some of the other sports where it seems like this stuff is a bit more standardized and knowing, okay, this is the top tier product, Prism, Select, Optic, et cetera, and things like that. Where baseball, it's a little bit different. It seems like the market's still trying to figure itself out.
Yeah. And there's been so many changes over the last 10 years to Bowman and how it's set up, and these cards, like, maybe that's why some of the early ones, I don't know, maybe that drives some of the logic behind it. But It's 10 o'clock. Let's get into the last few questions here. And you had put up a topic here, like thoughts on the baseball card market 2 weeks into the season, kind of some stat leaders. Let me I'm gonna pull up my fantasy baseball team and just look at the top ranked players in that league. It's always like kind of a fun reason to do fantasy. It's actually like a little insider tip, almost like a great way to stay on top of who's hot. I think there's correlation between fantasy sports and sports card, short-term sports card investing. And it's fantasy sports makes it really easy to see who's hot and who's trending. So I'm going to pull up that player list. But while I'm doing that, Hammer, who stands out to you early on? Who's real and who's a poser?
One guy that's standing out to me right now is Byron Buxton. I know he's a guy who was heavily touted coming into the league. I'm pretty sure he was a very high draft pick. Was a guy that was supposed to come in and make an impact right away. But I know he's had some injury issues, so that's kind of stunted his growth into becoming the player that the Twins were hoping that he would become. But he really hasn't missed a beat since he's been playing to start the season. I'm pretty sure he's in the top 3 in home runs. I mean, yesterday I saw this man, he had a double down the line off a broken bat. And that you don't really see that happen too much, where a guy's hitting a ball like that down the line that far off a broken bat. But he really seems like he's a 5-tool sort of player who can do a lot of different things. And the fact that now it's only been 2 weeks, but he's staying healthy and he's producing. So I think if he can continue to show that, it's only going to help his card market, especially since I think he's in around that 2015 rookie mark in terms of his rookies for sets. So some of his stuff is really scarce. So I know the Twins right now are a top 5 team, I think statistically, or at least if you look at the power ranking. So they have definitely a great chance of getting to the playoffs. And I think if they do, he's going to be a reason as to why. So he's somebody I think that has value right now and is continuing to put it together as long as he's on the field and staying healthy.
Yeah. There's the health is a big thing, and Aaron pointed out he's had injury issues, but he was a hyped guy, and there's articles all over right now about we're finally getting to see the Byron Buxton that we were promised, back when he was drafted, I think 2012 or something. So, but here's the list. Acuna's killing it, man. He's killing it so far. He can't miss at the plate. He's another guy who beat one out. I know down the line, like it was like a routine ground ball to the shortstop, and he like beat it out to first or something. JD Martinez also just crushing it so far. Ohtani, people want to talk Ohtani, polarizing. Can he stay healthy? Should he even be pitching? He's pitching so far, but is this a guy who's just going to end up being like a designated hitter for the rest of his career if his shoulder's not reliable? What do you think about Ohtani? Is he worth? He's got all the potential in the world. Is it worth taking a risk on him, or would you stay away?
He was somebody I was high on in the offseason because he was just sort of forgotten about. And then he kind of came into spring training and started heating it up, and it really seems like he has not missed a beat. So with that being said, his cards have really gone up in price since then. One thing I do like about baseball is that it is an extremely long season. And as somebody can come out hot for 2 weeks, they can, go into a slump for 2 weeks. So he's somebody that if you don't have any of his cards yet, I would personally maybe wait a week or two, maybe look a month into the season and see, look at his box score, look at his numbers every day. Because all it takes is maybe for him to go an 0-15 slump and maybe have a bad start. And then you can see a drop. Or he has an injury, he's out for 2 weeks. And we can attest to that with Tatis, who I believe his cards are down 10% or 12% over the past 14 days since his injury. So I think right now it's at a bit of a high. It can go higher, I think, but he's really going to have to continue to keep it at the pace he has, which he hasn't really done up to this point at a consistent basis while staying healthy. So and that's what's interesting to me with MLB is that you can sort of monitor their card prices, monitor how they're doing over that span of a week or two or a month, and be like, you know what? Now's the time for me to dabble into this, because the first month of the season when he was doing fantastic, the emotion and the allure of seeing him do well almost made me, maybe made me buy at a little too high of a price.
Yeah, how can you not want to see this because of Trout? Is there a person on the planet who's not rooting to see Mike Trout in the playoffs. I mean, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's, I don't know, people who aren't Angels fans, Dodger fans, or Athletic fans, or whatever. But
if you're a fan of the hobby, then you should be rooting for him to.
Yeah, I mean, the Angels have had talent, and they've been on a bad streak of kind of paying players who are past their prime and trying to do what the Yankees did for a long time and just buy talent, and hasn't worked out. But hopefully, we get to see Trout in there. So it's interesting, to see the standings here. So you notice I've got Ohtani on my team. I got him late in this draft. Whit Merrifield has been hot. Not necessarily a guy I'm not really investing in anyone on the Royals or second baseman. He's streaky right now. It's working out, and I liked the flexibility of the outfield and second base. Nelson Cruz, man. I mean, does this guy age? I don't know. He's going to be smoking homers until he's 50 years old. And then you got Castellanos, who's been he was killing it early. I think he's a little cooled off a little bit.
Definitely don't remind us Cardinal fans. He definitely owned us during the that first series. But he's a guy who's always been a great hitter. Just seems like he necessarily hasn't been in that big market or somewhere where he could really be on the forefront.
Yep. Here's your boy Rafi Devers, and then like I said, my pair of standout Tigers so far. So we'll take that. Hopefully they can be pretty consistent this season. Bichette's doing okay. Bichette's a guy I was high on going into this season. He was the guy I was highest on from that Jays team.
One thing with him I do find interesting is over the past 14 days, I think his cards are his PSA 10 rookies that we have in market right now are down about 20%. He's hitting about 300. He had a walk-off home run today. I think that was his third or fourth home run against the Yankees. So it makes you wonder, were some of these guys maybe like him and Robert a little inflated coming into the season, and now that maybe they aren't necessarily coming out super hot, that their prices are maybe starting to come down a little bit. Now Robert's a little bit different. I think he's hitting around 210 or something like that. And I know maybe folks remember, I think in the first week of the season he had a fly ball go off the top of his head. So there might be some collectors there who kind of cringed at seeing things like that. But it just makes you wonder, were some of these guys overhyped in the off season, and now that the season started and we're off to the races, some of that's starting to to come back down to reality.
Always love finding a bug on a live stream. Mm-hmm. We just launched this feature this week, so it's always an adventure. It looks like maybe there's something when you're on the screen already, but yeah, I mean, you're right. There was a lot of hype. There was a lot of hype before the season. People started buying baseball cards. He kind of came up early. There was a lot of talk about Bichette. I think that he was on a lot of people's lists as somebody with a lot of potential this season. So you might be right. This might be a good time to buy.
He's a fun player. He's a fun player to watch.
Yeah,
I put him in that category just in terms of entertaining, almost like an Acuna or a Juan Soto. I mean, seeing him turn double plays. I think Vlad's playing a little bit first as well, Vlad Jr. So just like seeing seeing him, the ball pop up the bat and how he's playing, I think will help. And in terms of, card investing, so I do think that is a factor when people choose to maybe necessarily pick a player they want to invest in.
Yep. And then actually I was going to go back here and look at this in the NL. I mean, look at the Dodgers at 9-2, even with Bellinger out. I mean, that team's terrifying, is it not? I mean, they're just loaded.
That pitching staff is very scary.
Yeah.
I not want to face them in any sort of playoff series, just because I think Dustin May is their 4 or 5. So, yeah, it's going to be tough in any sort of 5 or 7 game series to beat them consistently. And then just the addition of Trevor Bauer, just kind of the cherry on top.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think they've even trailed many games in the games that they've won or they've played so far. So as of right now, they're still my favorite. But, like I've said, it's a long season. There could be injuries. There could be other teams that come in and make a splash. So it's going to be interesting to see.
This is news here. Acuna hit 2 more bombs tonight.
So he's really hitting his stride.
He's just dialed in right now. I've got an Acuna Heritage Hotbox refractor, those purple ones in a PSA 9 that I'm holding. I sold a couple of Acunas. I sold an Ohtani, and that was stuff that I carried over from last year as part of that diversified portfolio that just took off early this season. I still have an Ohtani Gold numbered to 2018 from Topps that I'm sitting on. But Vladdy's doing great this season. He obviously trimmed down and looks every bit of the hype. Your boy Yachty's doing really well. Kyle Tucker's off to a good start, although this is what I worried about is his average. I just worry about him being like Joey Gallo and just, it's all or nothing out there. The Adam Dunn syndrome, I call it. Arenado's been worth the paycheck so far. It's year one. Games 1 through 10, so it's early, but he's been worth it. Soto obviously just having a great season. And then what do you think about Mercedes here? What do you think about him? He's always kind of he and Baду are the two Cinderella stories so far this year.
Yeah, Mercedes obviously came out, absolutely on fire. I'm pretty sure like his first 5 at bats, 3 of them were home runs, but it's just fascinating to see how the card market works where, you find a guy like this who's just coming onto the scene. The only really rookie or rookie auto that you can find of him is in 2021 Topps Series 1. He doesn't even have a base rookie. He just has a rookie autograph. So to me, it's very fascinating to see, after 18 at-bats, his card, rookie auto from that set, just like 10X, essentially,
Yeah.
So if you were one of those lucky folks who pulled that rookie auto prior to those 18 at-bats, I would probably advise to maybe sell now just because, it's going to be hard to keep up that production at that level for that long of a period. Now, with that being said, I do think Topps is probably squirming right now to make sure that they can get his rookies into Topps Chrome or to Topps Series 2 or to Topps Update. I wonder why they didn't have his base rookie in there, but they have him as a rookie auto. But from a card standpoint, I do find it fascinating because Topps is probably scrambling to make sure that they can get him in. Same with Badu, I believe, as well. I know we have some Bowman of Badu, but I don't think he has any Topps rookies. So from a card standpoint, I think Topps is rubbing their hands like this is kind of some of the stuff we'd like to see, some new rookies that we can add into our update, into our our Chrome that comes out in late July. But I think it's a great story, but I definitely need to see more of a much bigger sample size before I start to tell folks to go out and buy the one rookie auto that you can find of this individual.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to shy away from those guys that kind of come out of nowhere. Even a guy like Aristides Aquino a few years ago, I was like, I'm not touching that guy with a 10-foot pole because he wasn't expected to be that. Now he's got the body size and the stature to do what he was doing when he first came into the league and he got called up, and it's showing he's not even playing all the time. Like he's not really one of the keys of that Reds lineup this year. So sometimes I like to see a little more track record. That's another reason why I tend to stay away from Bowman in general, because I don't have the patience. I don't like tying up the capital. And then by the time the top stuff comes out, I just tend to like it better. I just tend to like the tops better. And I usually wait until these like high profile, high draft pick guys come up and then prove early that they can do it in the bigs. Those are the guys that I target. There's a lot of risk. Baseball is a huge league with a minor league system, and guys can be drafted 3rd overall and never do anything. I mean, so Alec Bombs, it's Bomb. Did we say it's Bomb or Bohm?
It's Bohm.
It's Bohm. True to Bohm. Okay, so yeah, I do have a stack of his. Ironically, I do have a stack of his Bowmans, only because my buddy John gave me a tip last year that this guy was kind of probably going to get called up at some point soon. So I snatched a bunch of them for like, I don't know, 90 cents a piece or something. So I should probably sell those. Yeah, this guy, he was a high draft pick, and he's huge. What is he, like 6'5" or something? And so I don't know. He looks kind of streaky at the plate.
Yeah, I believe he got called up last year, and I think he hit over 300, and now he's going to be his first official year. And he's been doing well. I mean, he's got Harper, Real Muto, Segura, Didi Gregorius batting, around him. So he's definitely going to see pitches because they'd rather have him beat them than maybe necessarily one of those other individuals. But to your point, it's interesting because there's certain players out there, that don't get the love compared to these newer guys, like a Salvador Perez from the Royals, who isn't really that popular of a guy, but a guy who's had the longevity, who has the hardware, who has the ring to sort of solidify his legacy as one of the memorable catchers to play and to win for the Royals.
Yeah.
So when I would say for baseball collectors who do decide to dive in and want to go after prospecting per se, or these new guys, just maybe try to look at some other guys who might get that Hall of Fame nod at some point down the road. Yadier Molina tonight was his 2000th game he's caught for the Cardinals, and I think that is a record for a player to do that on one single team.
Yeah,
so that's just an idea, just to show you, some of the longevity that some of these guys have. From a hobby standpoint, they might be forgotten because some of these newer guys are just so hyped, and there's so much potential around them. I mean, and just to close that, and hyped. What we're hyped was Witt Jr. had a fantastic spring training with the Royals, but they ended up not, keeping him on the Major League Club to start the season. So with that being said, 14 days into the season, I believe his cards are down about 17%, his PSA 10s on those Bowmans. So that just gives you an idea of sort of the blip that can happen in terms of a guy really popping, and then, he gets sent down. So you kind of have to be patient to what you were saying.
It's kind of a proof, though, because with Witt's decline so far, one thing I found interesting about baseball is that if you get in early on a bunch of guys, like I said before, like in the episode I did, like diversify, and you get in on a bunch of them, you can get in really cheap on some of them. And especially like PSA 9s, you can sometimes get PSA 9s for like $10, $15 for like different players who aren't totally hyped up yet, almost at the floor of what those cards are. Now they might be hard to move. Like if they're really not doing anything, it might be harder to move those later. But you could pretty much liquidate anything for, $8 or something if you really need to get rid of it. But those are the types of things that they have such a high ceiling potentially if they come out hot, like Yermin Mercedes or other players. If you just have this big, diverse baseball portfolio that you sit on and you wait for that streak, they shoot up much higher than they will ever decline if you get in early enough on that stuff, if you got the patience to do it. And I don't mean, again, I'm risk averse in the sense of just all these Bowman prospects early, and also because the prices tend to be inflated when those products come out, but you can catch them. So if they come out in Bowman in 2017, people forget about them by 2019. And then you get them when there's rumblings that they're going to get a call up, and all of a sudden the prices go up super high. So Dex said he's always thought Corey Seager was better than Bellinger. I mean, Seager's legit. I mean, I don't know which one's better. Bellinger's had some incredible seasons. Seager was, I think, better last year, and he's probably just as dangerous at this point. So let's see.
Into his own since last year for sure, and he's been keeping it up. Seager has been keeping it up since the start of this year, so I think he is starting to blossom into the player that many were hoping he would be.
We got another chat here. I'm going to pull it up. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. Carlos Rodon has a no-hitter going into the 8th. I'll share that.
Maybe we'll have our second already.
Yeah, Rodon. And 7 innings, 4 strikeouts, no hits, no walks. So he's got a perfect game going into the 8th, unless he hit a pitcher like what's his face did, Musgrove. I was sitting staring at that box score when Musgrove threw the no-hitter, and it said 0 hits, 0 walks. And I'm like, how is this not a perfect game? And then I saw he faced 28 batters, and I saw that he plunked Gallo, I think it was.
How's Mercedes doing? Is he in the lineup tonight?
He's in there, 3 for 4, 3 RBIs, hit another homer. I mean,
clearly he's proven me wrong, keeping it going for the time being.
Here we go. I'll jump over. Here's my team. There he is at the bottom of the lineup. So I'll take that. I need it. So
I had a chance to pick him up, and I passed. So
yeah.
it was between him and Yadier Molina. I needed a catcher, so I said I'm going to go with the hometown discount.
Yeah. Well, this is a good time. I think you brought this up. Maybe the last thing I would say is now is a good time, and maybe I'll pull up the price movements while I'm saying this, to look for guys who are on the decline, like you said with Bichette, Tatis. He's going to come back. I mean, people aren't giving up on Fernando Tatis, right? So let me pull up baseball, and I'll pull up 2020, 19, 17, 18. Whoops, 16. And graded only.
Yeah, and one guy I highlighted in my, in the buy sell article was Trevor Story, just because I can see a similar trend to Lindor with him getting traded. Over the past week, there's been rumblings with Story is gonna, is either going to get traded or he's going to be signing to a new team. So I do think he will opt to go to a contender, or they will trade him somewhere, maybe a bigger marketplace. So you look back at the prices of Lindor before the trade, you can see they're similar to sort of Trevor Story's. So obviously that's a little bit more of a risk because you're hoping that, that free agent landing or that trading lands somewhere where, that could be big. But, for the prices at his cards and the numbers he's put up, I think it's worth the risk because I don't think he's going to stay in Colorado, and they're going to do right.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I agree that those guys do tend to move on, and Colorado's rebuilding. They need pieces. They need a lot of pieces right now to sort of rebuild what they're doing there. But my buddy John is a Rockies fan, and it's got to be hard because it's just not a franchise that seems to try to win. I mean, it's a weird situation up in the Rockies. They got to adjust to the altitude difference every time they go to another ballpark, and how that factors into pitching and hitting. And this is an interesting one. Kalenic obviously has had a ton of hype. People are really high on him. His stuff's down. But look at this list. I mean, there's a lot of big names in here who are down over the last week. Alonso, Luis Robert, Judge, May. Like, there's definitely some possible plays in here. Bobby Witt Jr., like you said, is. Let's see here. And what I did was I just filtered on baseball, guys from cards from the last 5 years graded. And Benintendi, if you were holding Benintendi cards, which I think I have a few of them, cheap ones, but you go to the Royals and you leave Boston, you go to the Midwest. It's not going to help your card prices no matter what you do.
And yeah, Aaron Judge, like you said, for some reason, the trend always is very similar with Judge year after year. His prices start to go up before the season, and then usually he starts to deal with an injury or two, and then people kind of are just like, again. So I don't think it's anything serious. I think they've also just given him a couple of days off here and there, but he has played well when he has played. But it's just interesting to see some of these guys every year where you start to see some of those similar trends, and it makes you wonder how long that's going to last until, they decide to potentially move on.
Yeah. Last year when I was stocking up on players before the season, the two guys that I was the highest on, and this just shows, I guess, it probably would have worked out still in my favor significantly, but the diversify versus go in on heavy on guys you're high on. But last year, the two guys I was high on were Keston Hiura and Fernando Tatis Jr. And I bought a few of each of their cards, right? And obviously it paid off. His stuff is not, I think it's actually still flat just because of what the market's done in the last year, but I keep waiting for him to turn it on. I mean, he's got batting potential. He's terrible on defense, but we'll see if he can do anything. So, all right, my friend, 10:25. We gave the people an extra 25 minutes. This has been fun. I was planning on 10 o'clock, but I need to, do some reading and try to go to sleep so we can get back at it tomorrow. But anything else you wanted to talk about tonight?
No, man, that was it. I'm excited to hopefully come back on at some point, talk a little bit more baseball as the season progresses and some newer sets come out and things like that. I know I'm really excited for Topps Chrome to come out, I believe, at the end of July. So just keep those televisions on and keep watching baseball, and let's try to make some money too in the process, and go after some of these guys before they potentially, explode.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll be fun too once hockey playoffs are going. Maybe we can get Aaron on here, who just says, "Thanks, guys." Aaron, let me know if you're up for that. Doing a live stream sometime, talk hockey. I'd be the far from the expert in that conversation, but Aaron knows his stuff. He's up in Canada, and it'd be fun to talk about what's going on with hockey cards and especially heading into the playoffs and who's doing what. So good stuff, my friend.
Awesome. I appreciate the TNT time.
All right. See you later, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks. Yeah, we had a pretty good turnout. I think we had, hovering around 75, 80 people. So anybody else who watches this after the fact, thanks for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions about market movers, email us help@sportscardinvestor.com, or leave comments on our videos, or join the Discord, and go to marketmoversapp.com to find out more. Talk to you later.